Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1495A, and today's date is February 11th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Agenda: Transition the Economy Away from the Central Banks. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Bix Weir. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you just go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you to the interview. You can play it right there. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewsSentinel.com site. And all you need to do is scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the interview right on the sites. Or you can go to Steemit, steemit.com. That is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we know, the entire economic system, it is completely falling apart, and we've been tracking this, we've been following this, and we know that all of this is one gigantic illusion. We see the stock market is being forced down, then being pushed up, and this is the battle that is being waged between the two factions. But while all this is happening, the entire system is being prepared to move into a new system. This is the transition. This is maybe what people call the reset. And there are going to be states where they're going to be pushing the idea that you can use cryptocurrencies to pay for things. Soon, corporations will pay you in crypto coins, depending on Bitcoin, doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be on the blockchain. And this is going to be separate and apart from the central banks. Now, the central banks, they want to take control of this system because, remember, the law in the United States and in many countries around the world is that you have to use their currency, the currency that they create out of thin air, the currency that they create and attach interest to. And we could see already that the transition is already beginning. In Arizona, and this is going to happen to many more states, and pretty soon they're going to be moving away from the fiat dollar. Now, Arizona, they took the first step. Arizona Senate, they passed a bill on February 8th to allow residents in the state to pay their taxes with cryptocurrencies. And this is Senate Bill 1091, which intends to enable cryptocurrencies for tax payment. And we see that they're going to allow the people of the state to use cryptocurrency as a form of payment. Now, the bill was introduced on January 10th, 2018, and passed by the Senate Finance Committee by 4-3 vote on January 24th. On February 8th, the Senate passed the bill by a margin of about 16-13, with one no vote. Now, the bill has now been sent to Arizona's House of Representatives. If the bill is adopted, Arizona would become the first state in the U.S. to accept cryptocurrency tax payments by the year 2020. And the bill would allow taxpayers of the state to use a payment gateway such as Bitcoin, Litecoin, or any other cryptocurrency recognized by the department using electronic peer-to-peer systems. This is the beginning stages, and this is something that the central bankers do not like because the cryptocurrencies, the blockchain is out of their control. You're not using their currency. And eventually what's going to happen, just like we see with Amazon and Facebook and many other corporations, they're going to start to accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment. Soon, corporations, businesses, they're going to be paying their employees in cryptocurrency. And eventually what's going to happen, there'll be no need to take that cryptocurrency and move it into dollars. Because if you get paid in cryptocurrencies and you can purchase things in cryptocurrencies, why do you need the dollar? This is how this system is slowly moving to a new system. And the entire economic structure, infrastructure, needs to be changed to handle all this. And this is the beginning stages of building this new infrastructure. Now, on the other side, the central banks, they don't want this to happen. This is why you see the BIZ out there, the Bank of International Settlements. This is the central bank of all central banks. This is why you see other central banks that are out there saying, no, this whole crypto thing is used for laundering money. It's used by terrorists, used by criminals. We need to regulate it. We need to use our own type of cryptocurrency where everyone can use it and we can control it. That's their end game. The opposite side of that is the people's end game is to separate themselves from the central banking system. And as the economy continually breaks down, we're going to see the entire system move in that direction, in the direction of moving away from the central banks, while at the same time, the central banks, they're going to try to control the situation. So we're going to have a battle within this whole entire system here. Now, Bank of America, their critical stress signal was just triggered, and they're saying that this is going to be a disaster. And when this is triggered, the central banks, they might have to step in and save the day. And the markets actually calm down when the central bank says, oh, we might intervene or do something to help out. But at this time, at this point, we're not seeing the central banks come in and say, hey, we're going to help out here. We also see that the market has plunged by nearly 8% over the last week. And there are losses across the board. And nearly every asset class, from stocks to bonds to commodities to real estate, are participating in the pain. And we're starting to see that the markets right now, they are warning us that there's a storm that is heading towards us. And there is a storm that is heading towards us because we understand that this whole market is completely manipulated by the central bankers. It's manipulated by the Trump administration, by the deep state. And we have two sides battling out right now. And we're going to see the market go down. It's going to be pumped right back up. And we're going to see this happen in the course of the next week or the week after that until the entire system breaks. And the reason why Trump has been pushing the market up, been pushing the idea that the economy's fine, because the administration and those individuals behind this, they're trying to prepare us for a transition into a new system. This system that we're in right now is one gigantic bubble. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's dead. It can't go anywhere. On the other hand, you have the central banks, you have the deep state, where they're trying to push us into their new system. And they're at the point right now with all the investigations and everything else going on where they're getting ready, and they are ready to crash the system and blame it on Trump. Now, if they can't get the crash going and they can't push their agenda, they will use other means to bring us in that direction. And something very interesting is that on James Corsi, on his Twitter feed, I saw something very interesting where it says, why exactly is it that we have the Fed? Why can't the government, print silver certificates or treasury bills or create our own type of currency without the central bank? And again, this goes back to my original report and my original theory of this is why Trump has Andrew Jackson hanging on the wall in the White House, because Andrew Jackson, he campaigned on getting rid of the central bank. And I believe this is the move to get rid of the central bank. This is what the whole transition is about. This is the whole idea behind all of this, because the central bank is the root of all evil. They're the ones who create the currency. They're the ones who bribe government officials, blackmail. They push their agenda across the globe. They create wars. They do all of this stuff to make sure that they're in control. And it's very interesting that he is out there saying this, just like I am saying this, that this is the main focus, is to get rid of the central banking system. And if you get rid of the central banking system, you then get rid of the deep state and you get rid of a lot of the corruption. I'm not saying it all goes away, but a lot of it is removed. And this is the problem that we've been having since 1913 and even before that, when the central bank was in existence, because we had the first central bank, then we had the second central bank, then it was gone for quite a while, then we had the Federal Reserve. And we see right now that they create all these problems. They create debt, they create poverty, they create austerity, they make governments bow to them, the people bow to them, they put people into debt. The whole system is based around their system. Debt, debt, debt. And you can continually work as hard as you possibly can, but in the end, you always end up with less. And there are some people that, yes, will make out, and there's the majority of the people that will not. And that's how their system is created, where The majority of the people, well, they have a tough time. They live paycheck to paycheck. They really can't save that much, and they are struggling every single day. This is why people needed credit cards, because you need to live on credit because the value of the dollar decreased so rapidly that nobody can survive. If everyone in the U.S. got rid of all the credit cards and you lived on the amount of currency that you were receiving, most of the people would not be able to live today. They would not be able to survive. So what they've done is they created a way where you can still live and you still think things are fine, but your debt levels have increased dramatically. You're always making payments to the credit cards. The interest rates on the credit cards are very, very high. And this whole thing was designed that way. And when you pay something down, guess what? You have to borrow against the credit cards once again just to survive. And as the system breaks down, you see more and more people using the credit cards. And this is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing savings continually drop, and we're seeing the credit card usage continually increasing. And we see as more and more people get low-paying jobs, more and more people aren't getting the cost of living, it makes it very, very tough. And this is why this system can't really go on any further. This is why you have, the 10% of the people that have a lot of the wealth and 1% have a lot of the wealth. And think about it, 90% just breaking even and the rest struggling just to get by every single day, and they need government assistance. The system was designed to make sure that everyone was always working for the central bank, not working to better yourself, not working there. You're always working to supply the interest payments to the central bank as the government continually borrows. And the whole thing is one gigantic Ponzi scheme. Even though they call the cryptocurrency market the Ponzi scheme, it's actually their system that is the Ponzi scheme. They create bubbles. They have a Ponzi scheme. They enslave the people to work as hard as they possibly can. And when they can't work anymore, they go into debt. When they go into debt, they have to declare bankruptcy, or they have other problems. People have a very difficult time finding jobs. And the whole thing has been set up this way. Look at the countries like in Greece and Cyprus and in France and many others. They're all having the same problem. This is why here in the U.S. we needed all these entitlement programs, because the majority of the people, they can't live. Yes, if you have credit cards, you can get by. If you're getting entitlements from the government, you can get by. But if you try to live on your salary, you had a family, many of the people would have a very tough time doing this with having no credit cards whatsoever. And when I say living on your salary, no car payments, no credit cards, nothing that has to do with debt. It's very difficult for every single person to live that way. Yes, you're going to have a few people that will be able to do it, especially those individuals that grew up who were younger in the 70s, where they were already working, they built their wealth because that was the beginning of the system. Those people who are coming into the system in the late 90s, in the 2000s, guess what? Very difficult time to making or trying to make ends meet without the credit cards, without the payments, without the monthly payments for everything that you do today. Try it one time. Try living on just your salary. Get rid of the credit cards, get rid of all that stuff, and try to live day by day living on that. Most of the people cannot do it today. That's because the value of the dollar has decreased so quickly today that it takes a lot more dollars to get the same exact loaf of bread, to get the same gallon of milk, to get the same of everything. It's not that things are going up, it's the dollar is declining rapidly, and you need a lot more of them to get the same exact things. Actually, the process of creating and manufacturing, well, that's gotten less expensive, and there are processes that can create these objects very easily today, but the problem is that the dollar has lost its value, and that's why people struggle today. This is why people need to live on credit. This is why they talk about credit scores. I mean, without the central banks, there's no such thing as credit scores. You don't need it, because you would be able to live on the currency every single day. But since we have this interest attached, it makes it very difficult. So what's happening right now is we're having this major transition, and what's going on is we're trying to move from this central banking system that has enslaved us to a system where it really supports the people, where there's no interest attached, where the currency doesn't lose its value, and it doesn't do the same thing as the central banking system. So we're going to go through this transition, and you need to be ready and prepared, and you need to make sure that you have everything in line. Make sure you have food and water, because we're going to see inflation, which means the dollar is going to lose value. You're going to need gold and silver to maintain your wealth. You'll need some cryptocurrency, because it looks like we're going to be making that push to enter that type of system. The central bankers, again, are going to try to move us into a different system. But we could see right now we're going to go through a transition no matter what, so you need to be ready and prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.